Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sea Otter exhibit here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. My name is Erin, and if you're wondering where my voice is coming from, I'm standing up here on the mezzanine level. I'm back behind many of you over here waving my hand. Hi there. You are all in the right place at the right time because we are just a couple of minutes away from feeding our sea otters in this feeding, training, and enrichment session. So we'll be joined on the exhibit here in just a moment by several of our sea otter trainers for this session. But before we get started, I would like to make sure that everybody has a good view into the exhibit. So folks, if you wouldn't mind, take a quick look around for me and see if there is anybody who might benefit from taking a step forward. We'll do our own version of stadium standing around the window so that we can all see over each other's heads and shoulders. Thank you all very much. Now, if you are down below the mezzanine, don't worry, you'll get a good view from down there too. Not only will you get the underwater view, but you can also check out the screens up above each exhibit window for the action that is happening up top. So if you would like to stay down there, you will get a very good view. So again, we will get this started here in just a moment. So let me start off by telling you about our sea otters. Now, they are absolutely adorable animals, but they are also extremely important parts of the habitats and the ecosystems where they live. And our ladies here are not just here to look cute. They do actually have a very important job here with us. And I'll get back to that here in just a moment because we have just been joined on exhibit by our trainers, and they've also brought a very large kennel out with them. And we'll get to that here again in just a moment. But to start us off, I'd like to introduce you to our sea otters. And we currently have 3 southern sea otters on exhibit. Starting over on the far right side of the exhibit, we have Ivy. She is our blondest sea otter. She's got the most light fur on her head all the way down to her belly button and even onto her paws. In the middle, we have Rosa. Oh, Ivy's going over there to see what Rosa is doing. So Rosa is actually our oldest sea otter. She is 23 years young, which is very impressive. And then over to the far left side of the exhibit is Ruby. Ruby is our youngest and the newest to join our little raft here at the aquarium. And you can tell her apart from the other two because she is the darkest. She's the most chocolatey brown of all of the sea otters currently on exhibit. So we're going to see the sea otters moving around and about the exhibit. So we've got Ruby coming up onto the deck right now and doing a little bit of training, what we call buoy training or targeting, where we're asking her to put her nose to a particular target or that blue and white buoy that the trainer is holding. And as soon as she does that, she will get a positive, what we call positive reinforcement. This is just a little reward for doing the thing that the trainer has asked her to do. Now, the reason that we have that kennel out on the deck is because we often move our sea otters around onto exhibit, back behind the scenes where they do that very important job for us. Again, I'll get back to that here in just a minute. And we want to make sure that they are very comfortable getting into and moving around in that kennel. So we'll do a lot of training with them, even if we know we're not going to move them around in any particular day. We want to make sure that, for instance, Ruby, who is in that kennel now, knows that she is safe and that she can trust the trainers and move in and out of that kennel as she is being asked to do. Now again, that positive reinforcement really helps with these behaviors. That is essentially that reward that they get when they have done the behavior that they have been asked to do. And this actually works on us humans too. If anybody wants me to help them move, all you have to do is make sure I get a pizza afterwards and I will move all the boxes that you want me to. So if a sea otter decides that they don't want to do a particular activity today, that is okay. We just won't give them that positive reinforcement in that moment. We might try again. We might take a step back, do a couple of other behaviors, and come back to it. It is a lot of trust building for these behaviors and during these enrichment sessions with our sea otters. So again, I did mention that our sea otters have a very important job here with us. But to tell you about that, I need to tell you about sea otters out in the wild. Now, sea otter pups spend the first few months of their life, up to about 6 to 8 months of their life with mom. And during that time, they learn everything that they need to know from their moms. How to find food, how to groom their fur and keep it nice and clean so that it keeps them warm, and how to take some pretty awesome naps out there in the kelp forest. So those few months of that early sea otter's life is extremely important. But sometimes sea otter moms and pups can get separated. And so when that happens and they can't be reunited, that sea otter pup can come here to the aquarium and be raised by one of our ladies back behind the scenes as a surrogate mom. And that sea otter will teach them everything that they need to know so that they can then be released back out into the wild to be a part of that wild population. And in fact, we've had a considerable amount of success with that program. You very well might even be able to see some sea otters that have been through that surrogacy program out from our back decks. We see wild sea otters out there all the time. Now, to come back to the food that they have been eating, because you might have noticed there is a lot of food being fed to the sea otters this morning. Sea otters eat just about 25% of their body weight every single day. For our sea otters here, that works out to about 10 pounds of food that is spread out throughout the day. In comparison, if I were to eat like a sea otter, I would need to eat about 125 quarter-pounder hamburgers in a day. Now, that's a little bit too much of a challenge for me, but it is so important for the sea otters because that high metabolism helps to keep them warm. And if you've had your hands in the water at the touch pools today, you know just how cold that water is. The water comes in from the bay, goes through our touch pools, and then back out. So it is that same temperature that sea otters need to be able to live and thrive in from day to day. So one of the ways that they stay warm is through that high metabolism, and the other is through their nice, soft, and thick fur. In fact, it is the thickest fur in the animal kingdom at up to 1 million hairs per square inch. Now that is kind of like taking all of the hairs on a house cat and packing it down into the size of a postage stamp. That is incredibly thick. But that did mean that sea otters were the target of the fur trade for a lot of years. And in fact, we thought for a while that they were completely wiped out here along the California coast. But a few were found in some very remote locations. And then after that, there were a lot of protections that were put onto not only the sea otters themselves, for instance, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, but also on their habitats to make sure that they have homes right out there in the ocean to be able to move into and to grow and thrive in. And once they were moving back into those habitats, they were actually able to help those habitats themselves thrive. They are ecosystem engineers, which means that their presence means that there is a very healthy habitat right out there. For instance, they eat sea urchins, which otherwise would grow into too many numbers and eat all of the kelp. So sea otters help to keep the sea urchin population in balance, which then helps to have a nice, healthy, and balanced kelp forest, which we can see right off of our back decks and here in the exhibits as well. Now, I have noticed that Rosa here in the water on the right side of the exhibit is doing a few different behaviors with touch. Now, the trainer is asking Rosa to hold still and then putting her hand on her in different places. This is another one of those really important animal care, animal-related behaviors, husbandry-related behaviors, that we want to make sure the sea otters are comfortable with. We do give them annual exams and take very, very good care of them while they are here. And so we want to make sure that they are comfortable with all of these behaviors. Again, that practice makes perfect so that when these things do need to happen, the sea otters are ready to do what they need to do at a moment's notice. Now, you might see that the trainers are not only using hand signals, but they are also talking to the sea otters to let them know what it is they need to do. We just can't see it because of those masks, but we'll notice from our side of the window here that the sea otters are looking at those different cues to know exactly what to do. And then back to that positive reinforcement, once they have done that behavior, they get that little bit of food. And in this case today, we've got clam tongue, we have some squid, and some lovely shrimp on the menu. And I see some pretty big handfuls of food today. And again, I did mention earlier that sea otters eat a lot of food. The 10 pounds that go to our sea otters every day are split up into several different feedings as well as enrichment sessions. And these training and enrichment sessions all vary from session to session. In fact, no two sessions are the same. And that is so that the sea otters don't ever get into a routine, and they're always wondering kind of what to expect next so that they are paying attention to those trainers. So our trainers have given out that last little bit of food and have gone back behind the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and go off microphone, but I will be right over here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you all so much for joining me this morning, and have a lovely day at the Monterey Bay Aquarium.